Hey guys, Creator Mom, happy Sunday. Yesterday I watched a movie that made me wish that the movie just kept going and going. Have you ever watched a movie so wholesome and good feeling that you're like, damn, the movie ended, damn it, that's it? I think I've watched a few of those types of movies, and yesterday was definitely one of them, and I didn't expect it. It was a movie called My Old Ass. My Old Ass. So wholesome. Like usually when I put on a movie, I know pretty much instantly whether I'm going to be really interested and engaged with this movie or not within the first minute, a couple minutes of the movie. And right away, the movie takes place in beautiful scenery. Actually, I looked it up. It's in Canada, not far from Detroit, Michigan, like 9 hours away from me. I was even like, where is this place? Like, it's so beautiful. Over a lake, a beautiful home, with lots of land, camping, just very wholesome like that. Anyways, it's about this young girl who she's 18, and the theme that really stuck out to me in this movie was just the ability to grow up in a wholesome, loving family and take your family for granted. And that sounds bad, right? That it's not what you think it is. I think to narcissistic people it sounds really awful too. Like, take me for granted. How dare you? You can't they're always like that. Like, oh, you take me for granted. You're so selfish, right? But what really stuck out to me in this movie is this young girl, she's 18. And yeah, she's really absorbed into herself, not excessively, not damagingly, but as a healthy 18-year-old should be. Really embodying herself, who she is, where she's going. She's about to go off to college, being with her friends, developing those healthy friendships. Yeah, her family is there. She has a loving family, but she doesn't have to worry about being consumed and being in their minds, right? Because the mother is loving, the dad is loving. She's safe to explore herself, to explore what she wants to do in her life, to embody herself. When you grow up with a narcissistic parent, that's not safe. You always need to be focused on what they want to, or else you be selfish and deemed you're taking them for granted. But in a safe family, you are safe to grow and to think about yourself. And it's just to be consumed with yourself, really. You're 18. Um, but I feel like I have to justify that too, you see, because of my upbringing. Like, but the girl isn't a bad person. She's not. She's, and I love the actress they chose to play the 18-year-old girl because she's naturally beautiful, you know, and just her energy was just perfect for this role. Like, I loved it. The movie starts out with like it's her birthday actually, and she's with her friends and she's with her two girlfriends, and um they were taking a boat ride. They're gonna take a boat ride across the lake to this camping spot they have where they're gonna do some shrooms because they want to have an experience, and it's very safe though, and so her mom calls her and she doesn't pick up. She's like, "Oh, not right now, mom. Like, I'm busy, we're about to like do this." She didn't she didn't feel anxiety when her mom called. No adrenaline shot through her veins because her mom was calling her phone. Have you ever felt adrenaline and fear shoot through your body when your mom is calling your phone? I know I have. And even till this day, my response is like, oh my God, fear, getting in trouble, or what? This girl's response was like, oh, mom, not right now. We're about to go. Like, she didn't even pick up. Was the mom angry at her? Nope, not at all. The mom and the family was kind of waiting for her because they were having a dinner. And I think what happened was that it was a miscommunication because later in the movie, you find out the mom was like, as the girl is packing up her things, like getting ready to go off to college soon, like in a week or two, the mom walks in her room and she's picking up some cups from her room and she goes, "Oh, we were waiting for you last night, or we had made a cake and I was trying to recall you, you know?" And the girl goes, "No, mom, like, I'll remember, like I said I was doing this or that." And mom was like, "Well, okay, maybe I didn't hear you or whatever. I didn't catch that." The mom wasn't fucking angry. She wasn't like, "Where were you last night? Why didn't you pick up your phone? We made a cake for you. We were sitting here waiting for you. You are so selfish. All you think about is yourself." Wow. I felt like the mother in the movie represented who I want to be, like who I am. And I feel really proud of myself for connecting to the mother's character in this movie. I don't know. I just felt like, yes, yes. You know, she was giving her daughter space, room, not acting like, "How dare you disappoint me?" You know, it's like, oh, okay, like that's all right. You know, oh, did you guys have fun on your camping? Like, you know, the mom was showing her daughter, like, "I'm interested in you. I'm interested. Did you have fun? I'm not interested in accusing you for being selfish. Or how dare you not pick up my phone call?" So I thought that that was really like beautiful and really healthy. It was a healthy display of taking for granted, like in my opinion. Um, yeah. I was Jay Reed has an article on his website. He's a psychotherapist about healthy relationships. There is this healthy uh, taking for granted of each other, and even that phrase seems so bad to me because I've heard it in a very negative way growing up. He says, excuse me, I'm not going to read the whole article, but the last sentence he says, "Taking others for granted is actually a healthy thing we should be able to do in good, safe relationships, and you have the right to recover this." The video, and he has a video too, the healthy side of entitlement. Heal from narcissistic abuse by taking others' support for granted. Doesn't that sound bad? Like, oh my God, I can't do that. What is the last sentence he says here? Two. I hope today's post might help you challenge the reflex of putting yourself last, lest you be accused of taking others for granted. That's what the narcissistic person does. They want to be first. Any decision you make in your life, if you didn't consult them first or think about how they would feel about it, you're accused of being selfish. Like, I remember when I eloped, and yeah, I know eloping is a big thing, and I mean, it can be viewed as fucked up, I guess, especially to a parent who's a narc. But when I eloped, I knew that my mother was going to be angry with me. Like, I knew that was the response I was going to get, you know? Um, I mean, because I knew already the pattern of how she reacts, you know? And of course, that was the first thing she said. "Did you think about how I would feel if you did that?" Like, no, mom, I didn't think about how you would feel. I just felt in love and I wanted to marry this person. So I went with it, you know? Um, you're not allowed to healthily take people for granted in narcissistic relationships. It's always about them, but they'll be like, "Oh, you think it's always about you because you're living your life and doing what you want to do." You're supposed to live your life thinking about embodying them and what they think. Um, so yeah, you can't do that. You can't take for granted healthily in narcissistic relationships. And that's what this movie, I think that that's mainly what it brought up for me. Um, and I was like, wow, what a beautiful relationship this girl has with her family growing up. She also had like, the movie also showed that she had really like healthy friendships, like the two girlfriends that she had, like just really healthy, really sweet. So another thing I thought was nice about this movie was that, so what happens is when they go to do the shrooms, the main character, I forgot her name now, but meets her older self appears while she's doing shrooms and they're camping. She thinks it's a hallucination. Her 39-year-old self, right? And I'm going to be 40, so it was relatable. But her 39-year-old self goes, share some things with her like, hey, you should spend more time. You see, because at 39, 40, we developed more in our awareness, which it did show that part. She was like, spend more time with your brothers, and this and that, because the 39-year-old self already knew what all would happen. Spend more time with your family if you can. And the girl was like, the younger self was like, okay, like, sure, fine, like, whatever. And she does it, and she realizes she's able to kind of gain a better relationship with her brother, who's around the same age as her, and her younger brother. So that was good, And also, it also valued, though, the wisdom or the playfulness or the willing to take risk of an 18-year-old, which was nice too, because it wasn't saying like, oh, I'm 39, I know better than you, you're completely fucking dumb and stupid. It was like, hey, I'm 39, I do have a little more awareness than when I did when I was 18, but also I value who I was at 18. I value the choices that I made at 18, because at first, initially, the 39-year-old self was like, telling the younger self, don't fall in love with Chad. Whatever you do, avoid Chad, And the younger self thought, okay, like, whatever. And and also the younger self thought she was only liked women. That's how it started out. She loved females. She thought she was completely lesbian or whatever, but then ends up meeting Chad. Through some whatever random circumstances, and she's like, that at that point she realizes, like, holy shit, this thing with me speaking to my older self is actually real. It's not like just a hallucination or whatever, like, this is real. So she meets Chad, and she's like, oh my god, I have to avoid this guy. So she tries to, like, run away from him, avoid him, but, like, his sweetness and how kind he is really, like, starts to draw her in, and he's a really great person. She ends up falling in love with him, and they have sex and everything. And that's another thing I like about this movie. It really displays a young person going through, like, healthy sexuality. So I like that too. Discovering who they are sexually and in attraction and shit like that. So, she ends up also even her and Chad, have sex and everything, and they love each other. They fall in love. And she tells the older self, like, I don't understand what's so horrible about Chad. Like, I'm falling in love with him, like, sorry to say. And she's like, what is so bad about him? Like, what does he even do? What's the problem with him? And the older self goes, I'll tell you what Chad does. Chad dies. He dies. So it shows that the older self wanted to prevent the younger self from experiencing heartbreak, right? You fall in love and you just so in love and you have such a wonderful relationship with somebody, and then they die. So older self, you could tell, that's a wound for her. So it's kind of cool, because when the older self goes back in time, I think she's on some type of hallucinogen or whatever too. It's almost like the idea of these drugs through have put them in an altered state of consciousness that somehow jump them into the same timeline, where they meet and talk. So anyways, yeah. So she's like, Chad dies. So she doesn't want her younger self to experience heartbreak. But the younger self doesn't respond by saying, oh, okay, like, yeah, fuck that. I don't want to experience heartbreak. She goes, but she's already in love. It's kind of too late. And she's like, you know what? I'd rather experience being in love and experience the glory, basically, of this relationship than to let it go in fear of experiencing the heartbreak. Like, she's like, it's just like, you have to, she's like, if you think like that, you'll never take chances. You'll never do anything for fear of experiencing heartbreak or negative things or whatever. So the older self goes, yeah, I guess you're not completely stupid or whatever. Like, that makes sense and you're right. And I think that it healed her older self. It's kind of like going back to your childhood wounds or whatever. Like, I think it healed the older self and made her realize, like, okay, it wasn't never a mistake that I fell in love with Chad. Like, it's okay, and just kind of process and heal from that disappointment of somebody you love dying. So, yeah, the 18-year-old's like, nah, I'm going to stay with him. I'd rather experience and go through this love than not. So, yeah, that was a nice part of the movie. And it kind of ends there, really, because I thought it was going to continue on and show her in this relationship with Chad and maybe even showing him dying. I don't know, but it didn't. It kind of ended on that note. And I was like, wow, what a great movie. What a great movie filled with so much love is what I thought. Love and like really good loving relationships. So I'm like, that is so neat to be able to grow up that way and to have that. And what I feel like another thing I noticed about this girl's character, the young 18-year-old, is that she's very embodied in herself. Like, she was allowed to become who she is. And I think that's so healthy. Like, her confidence and her love for who she is really kind of shine through in the movie, in the character. So, yeah, that's all I wanted to share. I really wanted to just do like a little movie review about it. And yeah, so have a great Sunday.